Expecto Patronum. Expecto Patronum. What's some of those? Stupefy. Damn thing doesn't work. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Today we are checking out Voldemort and Nagini, a quarter-scale statue from Iron Studios. If you don't know who Voldemort is, you've been sleeping under a rock. Voldemort is the main antagonist in the Harry Potter movies. These movies were so wildly popular, they actually made books about them after the fact. Now, this statue is based off the movies, not the books. You know, growing up, I was a huge reader. I still am to an extent. I just don't read fiction like I did growing up, but I would always create what characters looked like in my mind. Then if they ever made a movie or a TV show out of them, every single time it was like, that's not what that character's supposed to look like. But I think Ralph Fiennes, I think that's how you pronounce the last name, did an amazing job at this. I think he's an underrated actor. He's great in every movie he's in. But Iron Studios made this quarter-scale statue, and believe it or not, other than this wand right here, that is the only Harry Potter collectible I actually own. This wand actually comes in a case that is autographed by Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry Potter. Now, I'm not sure why I bought this, and I don't know why I don't put the wand down, but it's kind of fun. But I think when I ordered him over a year and a half ago from Comic Concepts, which we're going to talk more about, I decided I was going to put him with all of my movie villain bad guys. Now, if you're new to the channel, you don't know that I've been greatly changing my collection and selling off a ton of statues, and I sold most of the movie bad guys. So I still don't know if I'm going to keep him or not, because I'm also confounded because while there's some amazing stuff about him, there's some stuff that I think that's a big miss. And that seems to be the case with Iron Studios. This is probably the 20th, 30th piece I've owned from them, and every single time there's parts of the statue I love, and there's parts of the statue that I think are amiss. And I just realized he wasn't turning for you guys. So you missed out on looking at Voldemort's ass. But he's coming around. You're going to see. Anyway, what's kind of questionable about this piece is we really wonder, why did this come out so much later than the movies? I don't know the exact date. Well, I have to look it up. I think the movies were a good decade ago or so. And then this also begs the question, is Iron Studios, the maker of this statue, actually going to make more Harry Potter pieces? Especially when you look at this one, which we'll talk about in concept. You know what? Let's just talk about it right now, actually. With concept, this is an incredibly dynamic statue, and I think that's what makes it look incredibly badass. So because it's so dynamic, you would almost want to pair him off, maybe against Harry Potter or some of Harry Potter's associates. So let's take a look. On the base, it's Hogwarts. So this is obviously the final battle from the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Hogwarts is destroyed, just like we saw in the movie. And you know it's Hogwarts because there's a few Easter eggs in there you're going to see in Paint and Sculpt. And Nagini, a giant python, is actually wrapped all around Voldemort. Voldemort is jumping forward in an attack pose. And what's really cool, like I said, the dynamic aspect of this statue is very incredible. While it's not necessarily incredible from an engineering standpoint, while there are a lot of props to Nagini, I think the way his robe flows, how you can tell he's leaping out, the facial expression almost reminds me of a specific scene from the movie. I think it's done really well. There's no doubt in my mind this is Voldemort. There's no doubt this is from the final movie. And I think that Iron Studios did a really good job with this concept. In fact, I give it a 5 out of 5. I think they did such a good job. Now, design, on the other hand, I don't think they did such a good job. So before we look at the unboxing and assembly, I'll measure him. Let's assume this is the front. So the widest point is about 13 inches, maybe give or take with his robe. The deepest part, depending on his wand, is about 14 inches. And then Voldemort himself, so remember this is a quarter-scale statue, is just under 22 inches. For exact dimensions, check out Comic Concepts' website. The unboxing and assembly was actually fairly easy, but that's not where the issues were, so check that out. One pretty manageable box from Iron Studios that you can see right here. There was some type of art box. This is the top. I don't pull out the art box, but I did pull out the foam and straps. It was also taped. Here is the first layer. As you can see, it's part of Nagini, portrait, his arms, a few other things. And then here is the second layer of the box. It's the body and the base. All right, with this statue, what you see is what you get. So there's no additional display options. You can kind of play with how you put the Elder Wand into his hand. Now, I did have some issues. Some are natural with every statue, some might be specific to mine. Let's look at the ones specific to mine. So first, you can see a small imperfection on the front of the robe. Not a big deal, I hate that it's in the front. However, where the seam line for the left arm is, you can tell the glue or resin or whatever they used is seeping out here on the front, and then it's really bad on the back. Thankfully, it's the back, so it's not a huge deal. There are some seam lines. First is actually on the castle. There's an additional piece in front of Nagini right there. Not a huge deal, but there are seam lines in the snake as well. So first one is right here on the bottom. Not as bad. They did a good job kind of covering it up with where the pattern changes. However, it's a horrible seam line back here. Now, thankfully, once again, this is kind of behind, so you would never see that. Could they have done the snake as a whole? I think they could have. I actually used to own this piece from Queen Studios, and that snake came as a whole. There was never any issues in shipping. Definitely some design issues, so for those reasons, I do give them a little bit of props because of how dynamic the snake is and how dynamic the robes are. And I'm going to say that this leaching issue is just on my statue alone. If it's common, then I'd say the design's a 2 out of 5, but it's probably just mine, so we're going to give it a 3 out of 5 overall on design. Paint and sculpt. This is where it's a little bit difficult for a number of reasons. One is the lighting in here. I'll explain that. 2 is just the expression he's doing on his face. Check it out. Now, even as I film this, I'm still unsure of the color, specifically his skin color, which we'll look at closer, simply for the fact that I have these bright lights on him, and in the movie, it seems like he was always in a dark scene. So we'll come back to that, but let's start with the base. I think the base is good. Obviously, it's part of Hogwarts Castle. There's a few Easter eggs, the different houses, I believe, carved in. I like how it's kind of toppling over to one side, as almost gives it more of a dynamic feel we were talking about, and the sculpt of the stones on top of each other and where they're broken off, in my opinion, are done pretty good. Looks like real stone, crumbled up. I think they did a really, really nice job. The snake also done very well, not only from a sculpt perspective, look at every tiny scale they added, but the paint is incredibly clean and smooth. And then they added a glistening, almost moist effect to him. Here's the portrait. I think it would have been cooler if the teeth were more white. I think that's more true to an actual snake. But even his eye looks fantastic. They did a really nice job on Nagini. When I was pulling him out of the box, that's probably what I was initially impressed with the most. Now, on Voldemort, you're going to see some of those imperfections we talked about. But how they sculpted his robe is done pretty well, actually. The flow of it is very realistic to the dynamic of the ness of the piece. And I really like that. A lot of texture all over it, a few different shades. You can really see it in the light here. You'd have to assume it's kind of dirty in the movie because he wore it all the time. But they did such a great job on that. Now, there were a few shots of his feet in the movie. I don't know why I remember that. I don't have a foot fetish or anything. And if I did, it wouldn't be for feet like these. But I like the enamel on his toenails, which you'll also see on his hand. I think that's why it bothered me, is because his toenails were so long. Males with long fingernails and toenails just freak me out. But take a look at his skin. I like how you can see the red veins underneath it. And it's almost like this, it's not translucent resin, but it almost looks like it is with the way they painted the blues and the almost a pink-white coating on top of it. His hands look very nice. Like I said, there's the enamel on the fingernails. The wand, the Elder Wand, very true to the movie, I believe. Glad they nailed that. But let's look at his portrait. So sometimes I see Ralph Fiennes, the actor, and it's interesting because they chose such an unnatural expression, but I think that expression is true to the scene. However, I think it takes away the likeness. So you see the same blue and red effects on the head that we saw on the arms. Clean shaven head. And the light is really, really reflecting off this. The eyes are decals. Then his nasty, nasty teeth and forked tongue. I never really saw that in the movie, but I assume that's pretty accurate. So it's cool you can see that little detail in there. Yeah, certain angles you see more of the likeness than others. But like I said, it's such a natural, funky pose. So I don't think the likeness is even spot on if it was a normal pose, which to me, I would assume this would be an easy likeness to imitate, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's no doubt who this is. I almost want to watch the last film and kind of freeze when he's attacking to see his anger expression. But I think the likeness overall is slightly off. But some really good things. Those imperfections in the design I talked about, the quality are just really pissing me off right now. And here's the inside of Nagini's mouth. We looked a little bit at the teeth. Obviously, there's no hole, but snakes there typically isn't. It's a flap right at the front. I actually owned a couple snakes for years, so. Hard to focus because of the white colors on this. And again, most of that is the light I have here in the studio. I think in a darker setup, it'll look much better. I think the paint is actually right. Like I said, I can't wait to see him like in a darker area. If you want to see what he looks like, where I'm going to display him for a little bit while I decide whether to keep him or not, check out the Extreme Channel's social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. The link for those is in the description below. But I give the paint a 4 out of 5. Snake, super impressive. I think they did a nice job with the robes. The leeching issues is more of a design in my opinion. But I think the skin is probably spot on for what he was. Like I said, we just never saw him under this kind of lighting in the movie. Sculpt, on the other hand, again, Snake is fantastic. Base is good. Portrait is good. I don't think it's great. The robes look great the way they flow. I think the sculpt, if I'm including likeness, it's kind of a 3 out of 5. But likeness, since we can't determine if it's actually correct or not because of the expression, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 overall. And if you're confused, I'm confused, and I'm the one who said it and thought it. So is this worth it? You know, when I started collecting, quarter scale statues were around $400 or so. This was $1,000. You know, that's 7 years later. Now, keep in mind, this comes with a lot more than your traditional quarter scale statue. It's much bigger, a lot more materials. Who knows how much the Harry Potter license costs? And they made 500 of these. There's no exclusives. There's no regulars. There's just 500 of these. So I think the value is kind of stipulated based off of, are they going to make other Harry Potter characters? I probably think this is the best Harry Potter statue out there based off of what I've seen in pictures. This is done much better than a lot of the OG ones. Is it worth it? Well, I think if you're a massive Harry Potter fan, it is. And if you're thinking about picking this up, make sure to do it from Comic Concepts. That's where I get a ton of my stuff. They're actually cheaper than other people. To my knowledge, I'm one of the first ones to have this statue, which is awesome. And they have fantastic customer service. I'm throwing a link in the description below. It's not an affiliate link. I don't get anything if you click it. They not only have Iron Studios, but Sideshow, Prime One, Queen, and a whole plethora of other companies. But overall, value for him, I give him a 3 out of 5 on the value right now, simply for the fact that we don't know if they're doing more Harry Potter characters. If they make a matching Harry Potter piece, that's good. I think the value would rise up to a 4 out of 5. It's always the danger of when they start doing a new line, do you buy it hoping they're going to continue to do more, or are you stuck with just one? However, he is a badass villain, so I could see him fitting with just villains from movies, kind of like I originally intended. Now, does he have the X factor? Is he a 5 out of 5 statue? That's the, not the overall score, but is it awesome? Is it one of my favorites? You know, I think how dynamic it is with the snake and Voldemort are absolutely fantastic. I love what they did with the robes. I think the concept's incredible. The leeching issue is really pissing me off, but I think it's overall a 4 out of 5. It's a very, very solid statue. It's nice to see Iron Studios stepping it up. Like I said, they seem to be either hit or miss. I think this one's a hit. I think if they release any other Harry Potter characters, this will be a hard-to-come-by statue for sure. And I can't imagine they won't, because even though the films are pretty old, they keep doing the spin-off films, and I think they're just beloved for all time. Do you guys agree? Is this the best Harry Potter statue out there? Throw that down in the comments below. I love to read your comments. I love to interact with you guys. Plus, you could win a statue with that comment. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Please check out Comic Concepts. If you haven't subscribed, you like stuff like this, we have tons of stuff like this all the time. So make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification. In the meantime, drop me a like. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.